Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. Welcome to Let's Talk Maywood on Diversity Today Media. I am your host, Dr. Reggie Ratliff. And joining me on this New Year's Day edition is my co-host, my co-laborer in the vineyard, and expert investment advisor, Terrence Hollingsworth. Terry, are you there?
Well, hello, Dr. Ratliff. How's it going on? Happy New Year to you.
Man, happy New Year to you as well. How are you? How are things going?
Yeah, it's good. You know, it's good. I'm excited for 2025. When it's all said and done, we've had back-to-back years with the stock market being great. It's been 25 years since we've had 20% gains in S&P 500 back to back. We did that in the last couple of years, and that's a testament to a strong economy. That's a testament to people understanding the importance of investing, and so that's a very positive thing, and I think that's going to continue going into 2025.
Yeah, so that kind of debunks the myth or the rumors that the economy is weak. Even under President Joe Biden, he did not bring in a strong economy as opposed to his predecessor, who is now going to become again the new continuation of his previous presidency, Donald Trump. Because you've always heard the pundits talk about how the economy is struggling, how people are struggling, and as a result, that was a platform as well during the
Yeah, I
election
mean,
campaign.
at the end of the day, inflation was high. I mean, we can't deny. We had a high inflation. Food costs were high. Um,
Still high,
yeah,
still high.
absolutely. But here's the truth about you know um, money and finance. Investments matter, and insurance is not investments. Investments is investments. Stock market has been the best performing asset compared to all other assets. And
Mhm.
we have to have exposure to the stock market if we want to be able to get along in the world and not feel the pressure of inflation and
Right.
higher food costs and higher cost of energy and all these things. And so
Hmm.
um, I hope we're getting it, right. I know that there are people out there that say, it's bad for everybody and it's tough out here, but it's not bad for everybody. And so, how do we align
Right.
ourselves properly, right? So that we're benefiting from a strong economy and a strong stock market. It's a real question.
Yeah. I want to get your opinion on something. Your expert opinion. You've said this plenty of times in the past that there's this rumor, this belief that real estate is the greatest path towards wealth. You contribute that it is investing that is the greatest path towards gaining wealth. Is that correct?
Yeah, so these are not my words, right? The data tells us this. So when we historically
Right.
look at the data and we look at what the rate of return or the return on investments ROI over the history of, let's say, the last 400 years, what we find is that
Hmm.
the stock market has performed better than real estate, um, bonds, government bonds, which are 100% guaranteed,
Right.
obviously cash, right?
Right. Most
And
liquid asset. Yeah.
yeah, and so what we have to start doing is having the proper conversation and sharing the data with everybody so that we can make decisions based off, we live in a era now where um, in the professional world, we talk about data driven decisions, right?
Hmm.
Um, the data tells us that we should be investing in the stock market, not my feelings for this,
Right.
not your uncle's feeling that, maybe you have a couple apartment buildings
Right.
and things like that.
Right.
Had an interesting conversation with a guy not that long ago. And he's been pretty successful in real estate investing. But we started having conversation about investing in the stock market, and he started having conversations with me regarding Warren Buffett. And I said, well, let's just tell the truth that if you want to mimic Warren Buffett's investment style, you would take the income that you're getting from your apartment buildings and not living off of them and increasing your lifestyle. What you would be doing, you would be taking that money and investing it in the stock market and creating
Mhm.
more value.
Yeah. Not in
And
more real estate, right? Not
you're
in
right.
more real estate. Right.
Yeah. So you
Right.
take your money from your rental properties and you would put it and invest it in anything, S&P 500,
Mhm.
an emerging a company that you like. But that's the Warren Buffett investment style, not
Yeah.
buying mutual funds and things like that.
So I asked this question because I'm very fortunate through my consulting practice, Ratliff Consulting Group, to have some realtors who are clients of mine, help them obtain
Hmm.
funding, grants, or business plan writing so they can seek more investing to expand their business. But I was talking to a good friend of mine, known this person for since our days back at Garfield. And he's a realtor,
Hmm.
real estate investor, and he does very well. And we were talking just yesterday, and I said, "Hey, my buddy says the greatest path is not real estate." I say it's investing, but you know what? From an economic standpoint, there's truth to that because there's the data that validates what he's saying. And my buddy's like, "Really?" He said, "You're like, really?" I said,
What?
I said, I said that is a fact. I said, there's data shows that Reuters, Wall Street Journal. I mean, there are a lot of sources out there that you can see. That's not to say that real estate is a failure. The common is the greatest path. So people are doing. I said, look at you. You're doing well financially by investing in real estate. I said, but the problem is, especially amongst African Americans, is that we want that house. We want to purchase that home, Terry.
Yeah.
But after we go through the closing and everything, we wind up house rich, cash poor, which
Hmm.
means we don't have any money available for emergencies. And unlike, renting an apartment or leasing a home, you are responsible for the taking care of the home. You're responsible for paying the property taxes. You're responsible
Well,
for everything for that. So,
one of the things that we do in our class, right, course, is you know, the Warren Buffett investor. And what is a Warren Buffett investor? What does it mean to be a Warren Buffett investor? And so, even though Warren Buffett is not a big um, real estate investor at all, the reality is people just don't understand structure. And so we think that, okay, we go and buy a piece of property, we get this cash flow every month. And what we do is we break down the cash flow versus, your obligations to the mortgage company because they're not
mhm,
going and buying the cash. Your
right.
obligations to um, all the other costs related to owning the real estate.
Mhm.
And are you really making it?
Well, your
I don't want to
responsibility
get
as a homeowner, just
yeah.
overall. Yeah.
Yeah, so I try to get away from, especially in this forum, because of course we want people to come and be engaged in the classes way more in depth and things like this.
Hmm.
But there's a lot to be learned to go in there and be able to have a structured conversation about investing, Warren Buffett, uh, his take on investing, how he actually invests, and more importantly, is real estate the pathway to closing the wealth gap between black and white, or creating your own level of wealth? And again, the data does not support that,
Right.
and we have to get more comfortable as families having that conversation about how to do it if we're serious about it. And it doesn't go past that.
Yeah, I would love to have a realtor to come on because that's, from my perspective, that's their area of expertise. They could get down to the nitty gritty. They could give a little bit more insight in terms of how they can use that. Because like my buddy, he used it as an investment vehicle. You're talking about the income that comes in. He used it as a vehicle. But we need to be able to teach that, and we have the space and the platform, and we're already doing the classes. We've been doing the classes now for what, nearly 4 years, as far as like
Yeah.
virtual, since COVID. So we have the space to do this. And so there are many opportunities for people who aspire to be, real estate investors, or even investors of the stock market. You mentioned the S&P, or the NASDAQ, or whatever, just simple investing. We provide that space to do that.
The thing that is really important all the time is um, having diverse conversations, or when you have great people. I'll use a basketball analogy. um, if you put Steph Curry and LeBron James and another superstar, or let's just say when LeBron went to Miami, you had LeBron, Bosh, and you had Wade. They struggle right away, but they are
Yeah,
great basketball players,
yeah.
and great basketball players are always going to come up
Don't forget about
with the
Ray Allen.
solution.
Uh,
Yeah, that's true, right?
I said, don't forget
But
about Ray Allen. he
yeah,
saved he
absolutely.
saved them one year, but yeah,
So when you have those kind of people on the team and contributing, they eventually get it right, and that's the question that we have to have about Maywood. Maywood, high property taxes, high crime. Do they have the team that is sitting down? Are they surrounding themselves with people that can give the proper kind of insight to do what the village needs? What do you think?
yeah. I think that you raised a great point and to raise a great question. We've been talking about this for a minute. We've had, the pleasure of having, Trustee Isaiah Brandon on, also Trustee Miguel Jones on, who's almost a regular. I mean, we love
Yeah.
the fact that they come on our podcast and talk, openly and very, very transparent about their positions with the politics. Not to mention, Dr. Mary Larry, who's going to run again. But we have these diverse politicians from the village of Maywood who talk about the issues and what their positions are on these issues and how Maywood could continue to evolve in a positive direction, if you will. But when you talk about the village of Maywood and where we stand and the issues that are faced as citizens, as politicians, the casino, the revenue coming in from the casino, um, the lack of a strategic plan,
Hmm.
um, the high taxes that's higher than any other suburb, west suburb, in Proviso Township, belongs to the village of Maywood. Um, Dealing with crime, dealing with the schools. I see these as future strengths, but like you said, what team is going to raise the bar in the village of Maywood to say we could tackle these issues in a tangible way that's going to bring positive results? It all starts with a strategic plan. If you don't have a
Hmm.
strategic plan, you're going to continue to throw darts on the wall and hope it sticks. And it does not work. The village of Maywood has not had a strategic plan since 2003. I was at that meeting when they finally had one. But with that said, it's going to take the right team, whatever team that is that's running, because elections are coming up in April, that's going to have a transparent plan with a strategic plan that's complementary of realistic goals and expectations that's going to lift up the community.
So let me ask you this, Dr. Ratliff. Do you think the way that um, Maywood, like you have this party and then this party, and they try to get their whole teams elected? You think that's the right way of going? I mean, it's ingrained, so that's just kind of the
Right,
way it's going to
right.
be. But
It's a slate. It's a
um,
slate.
yeah. So, do you think that's going to create the best results, or is it better? I mean, ultimately, the process works itself out because you don't, um, elect an entire slate.
Right,
They still have to individually
right.
invest, but I mean, vote on those candidates. But is that the right way of approaching the elections? Period.
I think best practices should open the opportunity for the best candidate to win, whether it's an independent or they're running on a slate. I
Okay.
recall back even in the early 2000s when the school board election, District 209. It was, Dr. Charles Flowers and Miss Teresa Kelly and Chris Welch. They were all on one slate. Strong candidates, but they had to run independently. But they went to different places. They went to the churches. They went to the medias and things like that. And of course, we see what happened from their career. They all won, and then it launched them into another stratosphere. So I think there's some advantages for running the slate. Here in Northern Virginia, I mean, the DC area is the mecca of politics.
Yeah.
So even here, people they run a slate. Doesn't guarantee a win. But the answer to your question, I don't know what the best practice is in terms of how a party or individuals or groups should run. I just seen the advantages and disadvantages of running as a slate because you have more access to resources, you're working together, such like that, as opposed to running independently. But my question is, are the right people running on a slate and not just somebody trying to pull somebody up who does not have the credentials or the experience or the qualifications at the end of the day? That to me is the lingering question.
So you mentioned a priority probably should be creating a strategic plan. What next do you think is the next thing that is the biggest battle, the biggest hurdles that Maywood is facing?
Implementing the strategic plan because there's been discussions about the strategic plan. There have been discussions about it since 2003, dude. I mean, it's just like there's discussions about the park district and the village of Maywood taking over the park district, but then there's things that's happening or not happening. So number one, create it. Number two, implement the doggone thing, because it has everything you need in a strategic plan. So,
Yeah.
one thing, and I know I might get chastised for this, but Maywood, every time I come home, there are smaller homes being built. There are more, there are more businesses that are popping up, which is a good thing. But what type of businesses are popping up? They're mostly fast food, takeout businesses
Hmm.
that doesn't put a dent into the Village of Maywood economy. It just doesn't. It temporarily puts it back on the tax roll. It gives you some employment, 2-3 people, whatever. But if you are creating these fast food businesses and implement it in Maywood, sure, it's an opportunity for the business owners to have their own income and things like that. But we need something that's going to gravitate Maywood and take it to another level. If you look at the other communities in Forest Park and Melrose Park was in jeopardy of bankruptcy years ago.
Yeah.
But they rose from the ashes. I mean, they're a thriving community. If you think about Oak Park and River Forest, they don't have a whole lot of businesses, but they got strong businesses and strong support.
Well, I
And then
mean,
the
Oak
other,
Park. If you look at Oak Park, they're slated. They do have, they got the Trader Joe's and they got the business district where the
absolutely, but they weren't
where the
always
movie
there.
theater,
They brought them
yeah,
in,
where the movie theater
right?
is and stuff like that. So they
Yeah,
do have a strong, diverse group of businesses that, and you're correct. That's kind of
but
what I was.
but
Go ahead.
yeah, businesses have left Oak Park, and businesses have come to Oak Park. Businesses have left Broadview, and businesses have come to Broadview. Businesses have left Melrose Park, and businesses have come to Melrose Park. Businesses have left Maywood that were impactful. I mean, you think about the Canada Dry, you think about the grocery stores back for that
Hmm.
time. You think about Maywood had 2 movie theaters.
Oh, I never knew
Two.
that.
They also
Wow.
had, yeah. Yeah, they had two movie theaters. You think about the Sears. You think about downtown Maywood on Fifth Avenue. It's practically non-existent because they have not been replaced. So that's the difference from an economic standpoint between disinvesting and reinvesting. Those surrounding communities have reinvested. They have replaced. Maywood, those impactful businesses have closed, disinvested, or left, but they were not replaced. So I don't care about the bigger conversation is not why don't we have a white way replacement, but why don't we have a strategic plan that includes what a real business community looks like? And that is what Maywood do not have. And until we get that, throwing darts on the wall, another fast food place. Darts on the wall, another fast food place. But what
So,
economic impact does it have in Maywood?
so I've seen that it appears that the village has created a strategic partnership with the Joseph Business School. That's Bill Winston's business incubator accelerator, and we hope to get them on here because what you're saying is the lifeblood of what is going to be the future, maybe whether or not they're going to be able to get property taxes to be lowered, whether or not they can, have sustainable housing, right? Lower crime rates, all these things. So,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, sometime within now in the April before the election, we can have that conversation with Joseph Business School to see what kind of businesses that they're talking to and to see
Right.
if it aligns properly with what we call best practices. So
Mm-hmm. That would be good. I mean, we know the history about Bill Winston Ministries, the Joseph Business School, and the impact it has had, not just for the congregation, but also the community. So, hopefully and prayerfully, they'll be able to work together to create a strategic plan, not just partnerships. Because that, guess what? Partnerships is not a strategic plan unless you have a strategic plan that is inclusive of partnerships, who you
hmm
partner with, and what type of industries they impact. I did not mention this, but Kroger has a distribution center in Maywood. Those are the type of businesses that need to exist in Maywood. The Kroger replaced the Canada Dry. What's going to replace those other retail shops? What's going to replace those other impactful businesses? What's going to replace Maywood Proviso Bank? What's going to replace those other entities in the village of Maywood? And I know that we said we are going to do a short version today, being New Year's Day and all. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Maywood has been impacted for many decades, and somebody who's been a part of Maywood for over 50 years, the Ratliff family. It's time to bring in leadership that thinks about the people first, the community first, and themselves second. We
hmm
need people who are like, need I say, the late Mayor Freelon, Joe Freelon, who was just a simple principal of a school and who cared deeply about the community. And so when he was elected the first Black mayor of Maywood, he put people first. He made sure that African Americans, were running the businesses. He made sure that business was sustainable. And we need to get back to that trajectory. And it's, something that as a Maywoodian lifelong, it's in my blood, it's in my DNA. We need we need politicians who's going to make an impact in a tangible way, who thinks about the community first and foremost. And that starts with creating a strategic plan. It's a must.
I agree. Maywood is, I didn't grow up in Chicago or Maywood, but when I moved from Iowa to Triton, I spent all of my time in Maywood. Right. My best friend,
Mm-hmm.
he lived on Sixth Avenue, and
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
then his neighbors Fern and Dinka and all these guys, they all became my family. 'Cause I didn't have family in Chicago, and so
Mm-hmm.
I get it. And me being working in finance like I have been for the last 20 years, you start to learn the rules of business, and you start to see why some people are thriving and why others are not in communities. And, I just got involved in politics that I never expected to be the thing. The truth is, I didn't expect to teach, except for you brought me on and got me teaching, right?
Yeah,
And
best thing that happened to you. Yes, sir.
yeah, and so, but ain't that what community is about? You grabbing and reaching back and grabbing somebody and
Absolutely.
bringing them along and saying, "Hey, we have shared interests, and let's talk about it, man.
I
Let's
tell you,
get
bro.
to."
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah. So
I wouldn't be the man who I am today, Terry, if it weren't for the people I grew up around and grew up with and learned from in the village of Maywood. I mean, that's real talk. And you see all the people who are successful in different industries. I mean, obviously, you know about the athletic standpoint. Glenn Rivers, people call him Doc Rivers. The Javon Carters, all the people who done well in athletics. Our state championship wrestling squad, '86. Many of us gone out into businesses. Some of us went to education. But you think about everybody who grew up in Maywood since the transition of the Great White Flight in the 60s. And those of us who grew up in Maywood from, pre-70s and beyond, we're doing well because we were a community and we learned
yeah,
from each other and we learned from our teachers. District 89 was its own thing. 209 doing their own thing. The village was doing their own thing. And then we came together. It wasn't politicians meddling into 209 business. It was encouraging each other because we were all we got. And
yeah,
from that, we developed to having everything we needed from these 21 blocks. And I really want us to get back to that, Terry. I want Maywood not to be the same as it was in the 1970s because it's not going to happen. But we need to be better. We need to evolve as if we have matured and grown from the 1970s and learned our
yeah.
lessons, and so that we can move forward. And until we do that, we will continue to stay muddled in the time that's standing still, where we reflect on what used to be a community called the Village of Maywood. Because I can't say that that's the case today. Um, if you're not doing a good job, people will say you weren't doing a good job. If you were, they encourage you to continue because you had the support. But we need to get back to that. Hold the politicians accountable. Hold the educators accountable. Because many of us who are doing well,
And
we owe it to the people who raised us in Maywood.
and not only that, we need to hold each other accountable, right?
For sure. For
At the
sure.
end of the day, we can solve our own problems if we're working together. And
That's key.
I'll end with this because it is January 1st and everybody's about to go watch some football. I actually have another
Notre Dame,
meeting with.
baby. Notre
Yeah,
Dame. I
hey,
said, look, my buddy, our buddy R. Jarrett. I told
yeah,
him, I said, after they lost to Northern Illinois in week 2, I said, don't worry about it. They got this. And
that's
they ran the table. So after they
yeah.
beat Georgia today, they're gonna be
Say they back. But my point is,
so that's my pick.
and you and I agree on this, that at the
Yes,
end of the
sir.
day, it's important to get it off to the right start, right? It's the first of the year. How do you want to start your year off? Not doing the things that you say that you believe in, or doing the things that what we do is a lifestyle. So, so what? It's a holiday, or on some level, you still go get your workout in. You still go and meet with your team,
Mhm.
and make sure that everybody's in the right frame of mind, so that 2025 can be more successful than 2023, right? That the
I'm
heights of
I'm confident.
2024, yeah, the heights of
Yep,
2024, or the ceiling of 2024 is the floor of 2025, right? And if we can
absolutely.
do that, then things are awesome.
I believe in Maywood. I believe in the village of Maywood. I believe in the leaders of Maywood. I believe in the people of Maywood. I love Maywood. I always have, always will. And let's get off to a good start. I believe that people want to do well in Maywood for the community. I truly believe that the hearts are there for those who want to lead Maywood and get us back in a positive direction. And 2025, I think we're going to thrive in 2025. That's my motto: thrive in 2025.
Well,
So
the
that's
one
it.
thing about it is, from our standpoint, we're going to do the work. You can count on Let's Talk Maywood to bring the issues that are important to Maywood to the people in a very transparent way. And it's not gonna be anything different.
Yeah, and just so we not forget about what happened, because there was a tragedy that happened. New Year's with the insane person plowing through a bunch of people in New Orleans. Keep those 10 who lost their lives, and I believe there were dozens of others who were hurt. And we pray that God will put a shield around the city, and those who have lost loved ones, keep them in our prayers, and those who are injured, that they will have a full recovery, and God will make this not only the village of Maywood, but those who are touched from the village of Maywood who are living elsewhere will have protection over them. Because like Pastor Marvin Wiley of Rock of Ages says, there's some tough fellas in town, and most of us can't afford a bodyguard. So we need our angels of protection over us. And I'm confident that this year will be a great year, a banner year for us.
Yes, sir. All right.
So, all right. Cool stuff. All right, man. We'll start bringing on people on next podcast. This is a year when we start, this political season now in the village of Maywood. And so we're going to have candidates come on. We're going to have, of course, people who are from or connected with the village of Maywood come on. And we could continue to bring the news to you in a positive and objective and lightful way. So on behalf of Terrence Hollingsworth, I am your co-host, Dr. Reggie Ratliff. Have a great year, everyone. Be blessed, be safe, and God bless.